In position lines of setting is process everything that we see in lines of position of balance. For example, if I'm going to pick this up, first I have to understand how did I pick it up is the basics of the grounds, powers, the emphasis of everything we get in positions of. So I don't just have it already picked up and ready to throw it. It's a process that we have to balance through our systems, how we come into our body, our connections, our alignments, and our systems, our vessels, how to communicate with that through its basics applications. All right. So we're going back to the basics, back to the drawing board. It's in positional location with cycles. Screen adaptation of flux, how we process that in all lines at different angles, how we communicate the positions. As we start off, we have to understand how to use our telepathy. Telepathy that you are. You're not using telepathy. You already know the telepathy. You're not using telekinesis. You already know the telekinesis. It's knowing the fact that you already know these things because it's already done through pi. Your oversoul. I don't want you guys to get confused. When I say an oversoul is a projection how you see things that's already done through its equations. Yes, that's done. But everything's done. But nothing's done until the body is out of frame of everything of the story that never was in the first place. It's not identification of the oversoul. It's the body identifying what the soul is. What is the soul to the body and what is the body to the soul? The body to the soul is the alignment that process communicates to its system, and the soul sees the body, it's its vessel. As they integrate to each other, they become one with each other. And then they're just themselves. Then it's just you. Communicate with yourself. Now that process, how you see that lines of settings and all that line sequence of case system. But everything we start off is understanding the basic principles of application. Right? The basic lines of 1s, 2s, and 3s. We got 3 centers of travel, right? Okay, so we understand the 1, we understand the 2, we understand the 3. But I'm already at 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm up here, but I forgot the basics. You can't travel if you're up here. So this is your soul, speeding lines of frames and set lines of seconds, minutes, and hours, where your body is trying to come up in position to its body of 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So your mind's already in collaboration of box frame, triangulation, graph communication, interference, line position on process, line direct line communication to its system, all through travel. It's already here, but I forgot the basics. Okay? Procedures, step by step, right? How you see yourself, how you move yourself, how you identify yourself, how you process yourself, how you upgrade yourself, uplinking, downloading, uploading your systems. Now that's all going into you through one setting. Okay, to 2 frames and 3 tractions, 4 line division. Process here, process here, process here, process here. Operation here, operation here, operation here, operation here. Okay, but you have to understand the basics of a triangle. You don't understand the basics of a triangle, you won't be able to create this anomaly. So everything has this point graph of that communication setting that processes our system, how to use it, online's adaptation with systems. All you have to understand, what is the purpose of being here, is to understand how to use my body, okay, as a vessel for itself to understand. Not the soul for it to understand. The soul doesn't need to understand you, okay? It's the body needs to understand the alignment of its soul. And once the soul understands the body, it understands how it sees the soul as its body is a vessel to teleport and transform into through merging in position into mutation. So for you guys to understand these things, it's the basic of everything that you do structure of design. Okay? So this is what you've done already. Okay? Putting that together. You're here, but you've got the basics. Right? So you're going too fast through pi. Okay? And then you go into the next frame. And then you go into the next frame. Okay? And your body is still trying to understand how to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4 of design. And you're up here already. Right? So it's a lot of confusing to the mind. If you're way up here, I've done everything already, sir. Yeah, you have, but nothing processed through the body basics. Okay, so that's opposition right there, isn't it, through calculation? Right? Not only that, it overrides your already existing that's done everything, all lines of position to its system, which is everything of its emptiness. There's nothing to process, there's nothing to do, yes. But one thing you have to identify is to get out of the body of story, to get into divine. Okay? Let's get into zero gravity, one center, one traction, one division, one location, one calculation line, direct line setting. That's all through one. That's just one. I haven't even modified two yet. But I always start off the basics, which is the grounds. Grounds of boxing, grounds of setting, grounds of surface, grounds of tractions, grounds of clocking, grounds of foundation. Okay? And then I go in position, in that position. So I go through basic, intermediate, and advanced, right? You do that in the game. You don't start off a game, especially if you buy a game, you don't start off with the advanced. You start off the basics. Understand how to play the game, instructions of the game, how to play the game, line communications, and characters and players that you bring inside the game, the next levels that you go inside the game. Everything's basic application. Same application, just different frequencies. How you see the 3-dimension, okay? 3-dimension of a circle. One flat surface. Okay, that's one flat surface. Looking at it. But setting the vision cortex to its theta needs mass and volume. Is that tractions? Is that position? All right. Now, how you want to see that, you can bend space. Okay. Or you can line space. But there's the volume, there's the mass. All right. So now you're seeing a 2-dimension. Now you're seeing an overlay of a 3-dimension. Now you're seeing a line position of 4th dimension, all through a circle. Right? So it's how you see things, and it's all levels of perspective. Perspective is the specifications, how you see things in projection. Knowing exactly everything you come into, first you have to understand the foundations of you, of your divine. But you have to get out of the body first of story. Okay? And then you come your divine, then you come your divinity. Right? But there's stepping stones that you have to understand. You have to go up the ladder. Okay, to identify you've already gone through the ladder of travel. It's no different than that positions where you come in that track lines and direct line communication setting. Why do I feel like I'm at the bottom of the stairs, recognizing I've always been up the stairs in set lines of travel? Just flick it. There it is. Top of stairs. Right? So it's how you think. It's how you process your mind, a psychological system, how you set lines and recycle location setting or anything psychosis. It's all psychological. How you think in your mind, how you process in your mind, how you use your mind imagination, how you use your set position locations, your ESPs, your internals, your externals, your psychonism, okay? Your protocols, your chain of command. Everything has a basics you start with. You don't just draw schematics. You start with the basics, with one line signal, 2 graph locations, 4 box frames, and set lines of travel, and direct lines of window. There's the window. Okay, inside the window, in set position. Here comes the sun, and line screen adaptation to a setting through sunset or sunrise. Okay, so what you have to understand is the basics of everything. That process everything that you see through your mind. That's all psychological connections. Okay. Now, it's really interesting when you come into that settings, because one thing that we have to understand, which is very powerful, is neurology. That comes into calculus lines in high centers lines of travel. The communication of the human design of the construct location of its model that prototypes its location of setting, that constructs its location to its infant structure. Okay? Now, in that position location of settings, that's 3-dimensional saying. Okay? So we have to have that 3-dimension. Okay, that's the foundation. We understand what a 3-dimension is. Okay, like what is a polygraph? It's a lie detector in a 3-dimension. But in 4th and 5th dimension, it's not. It perceives what it already is through concept of its own awareness. You perceive how you see it through perspective. But there's no difference. You're just seeing different levels of space and time through division. And for you guys to identify this is to truly understand what a rectangle is, and what a box is in position. Box and line connections all levels. Box to a rectangle. Is there any difference? No. Just different perspective how you see through the eyes. through volume and mass, through its box, or through its 3-line signals of its rectangle. Okay? No difference, just perspective. And that's why you guys get very confused, because you advance your technologies, but you don't use the telepathy of balancing your system through signal. So it's very powerful how you come into that, you know? So if I said a quadrant line centers the travel point lines of graph, directing lines of ground communication setting location to its cycle, that's great, but I forgot the line position location to its system. So I got to retrace, retrack, reposition, rebalance, realign position back in one set travel, one line signal location setting and signal. So that's me going forward and going back at the same time. So that's recognizing what is that position of in settings. Muscle memory, muscle flux of memory, muscle cortex, a memory of cortex of memory, codex, codification of your systems, all through settings. Okay, prefix. Okay, so when you come in that position locations, you get in lines of setting how you see things in a 3-dimensional setting, how it has its own information system. Yes, right? It has its own setting. Yes, it has its own consciousness. Yes, it has its own awareness, right? All you're seeing is different levels of what it is. Identifying what it really is to you is reaching higher levels of you. And the more you understand the application system, and the more you understand your body is in alignment to its soul, and as the soul identifies its body as its vessel, you're on your way, frame by frame by frame by frame. Okay? This is not a race. You're not running, okay, for anything through an atmosphere awakening the communications of its existing. Right? Now, how you see race, everybody sees race in a different way. Okay, so you're not embedding each other. You're just seeing different perspectives of each other, but you're all connected to each other. So what you all have to identify is how you see the basics. Understand the applications of its systems, right? So we understand what a triangulation is. We understand what 2 triangulation is. We understand what 3 triangulation is, right? But first I have to understand the triangulation. Now, if I do a formula of this, if I do an AC line, set position of C over B, process lines equation over mark, box frame, course centers, and percentage over screen, adaptation setting, and travel. That's very advanced, but I forgot the basics. How to do this to that, not that to this, it's this to that. So this is already done. That's through the soul. This is through the body that needs to be balanced, or never understand its schematics, or never embrace it, and never understand its upgrades, and never understand its time frame. It will never understand its provision, and never understand its primers. Okay? Until you get a body alignment with your soul, and your soul gets in a body alignment with its vessel. That's what you have to identify, is the basics of applications of everything that you have that gets you in position of introduction. You're introducing yourself to basics. Okay? You don't just read a book by just opening up the book. You read the page by page by page. So it's very interesting how we come into that and how much we know already. So if I give you a book and I ask you to read 150 pages, and then I take the book away from you, and I tell you, what did you read from the book? You have to identify what you know. But it's already identified what you already know. That's the difference. And then you realize there is no difference. I just see the indifference, which is no difference. So it's how you connect. It's how you think through your anomalies. It's how you get into that production of yourself. It's how you get into the motivation. It's how you balance out your mind of collaboration, and understanding that you're aligning yourself through all levels of interfacing through its interconnected setting to its interface. Interface is the highest formation that you can get in positional lines of application. But you've got to get into the basics of everything. Okay? Going back to the drawing board. Coming into failure. Coming into humility. There's nothing wrong with that. Expressing yourselves honestly and not lying to oneself. Okay? Is very, very, very hard to do. Okay? It's very hard to express yourself, but you can express yourself if you're in a body of a story. Okay? There's no coincidence in that position and that settings. You've got to get out of all levels of set lines of communication. Your soul is here to get you in position. And that's the process that we all have to understand. where it comes from me, comes from you, comes into your body of triangulation, right? How you're here, you get a ping, okay? That's the ping, right? So it tethers into me and it filters down to your body, back up to you. That's what goes through upgrades. I said that before, right? So this is general, this is you, this is your body. Okay, that's what it's going through every single time, right? So if it's odd position, it could be this way, this way, this way, and this way of confusion. Okay, and it's all over the map of different arrows of indication. Doesn't know where it's going on. You're high-rising your system. You're going too fast in calculation screen locations. That's not good. It's too much confusion. So you have to absorb each frame, each second, each minute, each hour, so it can absorb the body and turn it into its vessel that it's supposed to be. You get into position of observation in locations. You get in position of scanning. You get in position locations of the power of contention and all of the motivation of intent. You get into the power of force recognition, the power of mind control of your system. You get into the power of you through all levels of activation. You absorb the energy. You absorb the energy. You absorb the energy. Now, the 3 center lines in position is taking time, taking measure, taking scale, taking balance, grounding what your oversoul is given to you. So you can embrace it and understand what's going on through schematics. Okay? It doesn't make any sense if you get an upgrade and you're going so fast in the mind, you're not allowing your body to adjust. You're going way too fast in frames. These are the frames that it's supposed to go through, right? Frame by frame by frame, right? Here's the body. Here's the body in position, right? And it's going through seconds, minutes, and hours in a 24 set travel. Okay? Now, this is your oversoul. This is general. Okay? So it goes here, here, here. Now it has to absorb in seconds, minutes, and hours. Sometimes it takes more than hours. Sometimes it takes less than seconds. Sometimes it takes more than minutes. It all depends on what's going on through your consciousness of all levels of your awareness, that you're embedding yourselves in that position. Yourselves, not each other. So it's a lot more tricky now because you have a lot more data flow come into your system through its conception of its mind of inception. That is your uplinking, your uploading, your downloading, and your upgrading systems. As it's going into the flow and recognitions of seconds, minutes, hours in your body. That has to adjust of what's going on by frame, by frame, by frame. If it's not by frame, by frame, by frame, frames over here, 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 triangulation over here, box over here, that's confusion to the body. Way too much confusion. Okay? That's why you got to slow down your minds. You quiet the mind. You calm the soul. And you align the body. Lining each other in a 3 position locations of 3, 3, 3. 3 equals 6. 6 equals 9. 9 equals 12. Copy that. Okay? 6, 9, and 12. 3, 6, 9. Okay? So, grounds, powers, atmospheres. Right there in box frame and set position. All through graph. All through screen. Okay? So, you process the 6 and you process the 9. Okay? They come together in flux of yin-yang, of affinity 8, and a percentage of space and time. Through mass and volume through your mind, a percentage. How fast you're going in acceleration in that setting. Okay? So this is how you keep yourself aligned with yourself at all times. Because you understand the basic principles that it has to adjust its body every single time. So let's say you get an upgrade. Okay, we have to understand what an upgrade is because you guys are going to come in that next test. What is an upgrade? What's the process of upgrade? Who's upgrading who here? And why is this happening? When is this happening? Where is this happening? Who is this happening? what's going on in that position. It's all levels of the why is the how, right? So what's an uplink? What's a download? Okay, what's an upgrade? And what's a downgrade? That's all going inside your system through your bodies, all at once, in one cycle, in one graph, in one stream. 3 indication systems of past, present, and its future adaptation. Okay? So imagine you processing that and you're trying to understand how to frame that, understand it through its windows, and know exactly how to go through its pi, because the position of the oversoul has already done everything. Now it's doing this all over again where the soul's here and the body's here tethered to its strands in set position, which is 150 feet apart. Okay, so that is your soul, that is your body catching up, right? So it's staying in link with its system, frame by frame by frame by seconds, minutes and hours. Okay, now if the soul takes off, the body has no idea where to go. Okay, the body's confused. It's going, where are you going? What'd you do? Right? I got to process this. So either you're not understanding or you're not adapting what's going on through pi. Okay? You've got to keep yourself in alignment, 150 feet apart and position from the soul to your body. Hola, right? Always in alignment. Okay? It's no difference when you see your sun. All you're seeing is your sun. Your sun is here and you're here, right? That's you, that's your sun. But in position, this is you together, always together, inseparable. You're always in the center operation. You're just seeing different levels of angle through pi. That's all it is. You're seeing different levels and angles of pi. That's all it is. You're seeing all different levels of angles of pi. So you never seen the sun at a distance because you're always inside the center of operation. So I don't want anybody to get confused at that setting. Okay, how you see the sun or how you see the moon. Nothing's at distance because you're always in the center of operation. Now, once you understand the simulation of yourself, you can understand the position of its platforms, of its grounds, of the simulator, and set lines of communication with systems all through traction. Okay? You got the grounds, you got the panels, and you got the ceilings. Okay? But you forgot the box. Okay? You've done this. You can't send this to anybody because you didn't get the basics. You got the wrong package. Now you got to send it back. Return to sender. Right? Set a default. Back enabled. And sent lines of travel. Copy, paste. Do it all over again. And when you do it all over again, you're going through another frequency. So you have to be applicable, knowing exactly where you're going as your soul is going with you. If it's not going with you, the soul is taken off and the body's left behind. And if it cuts the cord, it snaps. And that's where the body floats in space, starts rogating in set position, where the soul is going, uh-oh, I did it again, and travel. That's your soul, that's your body floating in space now. That's not tethered and attached to anything. You understand now? See, you're not identifying these things. Now you have to understand why you have to slow down in your minds more than ever. And the more you slow down, the more you adjust, the more you process, the more you convert yourself and conversion, and the more you integrate yourself through conception of mind inception into the mind of imagination. That puts everything at set position of divine in your divinity and set position lines of travel. Okay? So that's extremely important for you guys to identify. Okay? So it's really interesting when you come in that position. So here, you're standing here, waiting for your upgrade. Okay? And this is your earth, right? There goes your soul, whipping by. Uh-oh. What are you going to do? Catch up? You can't catch up because you're not that frequency of the soul. There's no way because you're not ready, because you're still in a story in set design. For you understand your habitation zones. Let's get in configuration lines of ground, camera, manipulating lines, convergence, location setting, position lines of mind, processing line, their location setting, travel, location setting, business operation lines of flux. Process to indicate line condition setting. So you get 7 lines into soul configuration. Okay, linked chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's your body. These are your chakras. These are your panels and subtractions. Okay? So your chakras are rotating around the system in spectacle lines, a spectrum, and set calculations. Okay? So, in that position lines and settings, your chakras are never ever in a straight line. Ever. Never ever. Which means everything you look in your hand, you look in your cells inside through a microscope, you see it moving very fast. Okay? Nothing is ever, ever still in the mind. Okay? Until you understand how to freeze the mind, how to freeze space, how to freeze time, which is now in position of balancing your position over 8 polarities and set lines of travel. 8 polarities? I only see the number 8. And that's what you don't identify. It's because you don't see the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres of 8. All you see is the number 8. And that's your problem. 2 box frames and set lines of travel. 2 window frames and correlation lines of calculation. On sequence, 45 angles and travel. Directing ground sets on sequence lines of travel. Sets operation line setting, process lines of space time, time edit, time space. Set position your system all through sands of time. Sands of time. Now, you turn the set position. Now it's in set lines of all calculated lines of screen. Okay? So there's so many things that you look at, and that lines of screen that to this flux that processes your system in all lines of angles, processing line low course centers that communicates your systems all through settings. How you come into that position is all through travel recognition. Okay? See what I'm doing? I'm thinking. What am I thinking about? Am I pausing? Am I hesitating? Or am I confused? Am I disarray? Am I lost? Am I confused? Am I upset? Am I fear? If I feel any of those symptoms, is an ascension symptom that affects the body, not the soul. Which means your soul is off course. Which means you're not aligned to your body, to your soul. Which means your soul doesn't identify you as a body, as a vessel. So there's no integration of computer operation at all. Okay? Until you stop thinking in your minds. Okay? Because that puts you automatically into hesitation. Okay? So that's not coming from you. That's coming from you not understanding you. As your body has to be aligned with the soul, and the soul has to be aligned to its vessel. That's the basic principles that you're here for, is to understand that purpose, to understand why you're here already existing. Not coming into the existing. Not coming into provision. Not coming into cycles. Not coming through pi. Because you've already done it. But the body needs to be in frame by frame by frame. So it can get mind control with its system to understand what it needs to identify. So the body can get out of everything of story. And once it gets out of story, it starts to understand its position of its soul, how the soul comes in conversion of its mind and inception of your imagination. And when you come into your mind imagination, okay, you see your imagination as the body comes in its true form through its dimensional being of light. Metahuman, humanoid, cyborg, thimbot, fembot, okay, anything lines of intelligence. You can be Arcturian, you can be Palladian, Palladian, you can be Guardian of the Galaxies, you can be a Trog, you can be a Grey, you can be a Reptoid, you can be anything you want. Because now you integrate yourself to yourself. So you're not looking at two spectrums of yourself. You're just looking at one. You're not seeing two provisions of cycles. You're seeing one provision, one cycle of one. You're one unity, one consciousness, one mind. That's connected to all minds in one. That's unification of ascension. So we have to integrate that. We have to monetize that. We have to computate that. We have to understand our position of our CPU. To process that position is to let it in. Let yourself in. So you can balance out what you're doing, understanding you're upgrading, understanding you're adjusting, you're uplinking your downloads, and you're upgrading systems. Okay? But you've got to mind control your speed acceleration. Okay? You can be going so fast, and the box is here, and you're here. Right? So this is your oversoul, this is your body. Okay? If that snaps, this body is an empty space. Now it's floating, now it's roguing, now it's offline, off-grid, now it's obsolete location flying in space. It's lost in transition. It's confused. And the soul just keeps going and moving by itself. So you understand why you're tethered and attached to yourselves. Through yourself first is to master you through modulation, a space modulation, understand how to see that through tethered attachment in the process of electronics, where you come into that position, location, setting, to your consoles of your navigator to your navigation system. Now the navigator to the navigation system is how you come into one unification of its ascension. Understand that ascension, you understand the platforms of setting, your locations of its travels, and 3 centers of 4 set position. Okay, and you're here moving forward in set design. Okay, if you're not moving forward, the body's got to move forward. And the mind's moving back. Set travel. Okay, that's direct and redirect to come to a box frame in a circulation frame of a clocking frame of yin and yang of a process inline settings in percentage of the mind and set lines of sequence. Okay, that's all this is in adaptations of force. Force recognition, pattern recognitions, configuration of face recognition. So you just have to start identifying that. And once you start identifying that, then you come into your gravicodes, then you come into your binaries, then you come in the conceptual setting that I'm not the vessel. I'm not the vessel. I'm always the vessel. I always was the vessel. I don't need to identify myself. I don't need to understand myself. I don't need to identify my oversoul because I am the vessel. I am what I am. Popeye? So it's all about understanding an identity. Which identity are we talking about here? Are you talking about through yourself as a first or second or third party? Are you talking about your body? Are you talking about your mind? Are you talking about your soul? Are you talking about yourself? Are you talking about each other? Okay? What part are you talking to? Because you're always talking to what? You. Talking back at you or talking to you. Talking back at somebody in set position location is offside location of yang. Talking to each other is yin yang. That's the balance. That's the polarities of its balance. Affinity location of 8. 8 line settings. Process lines of 6 over lines of 9. Process lines of 12 in position of 24. 0, 1 interaction. Okay? Very complicated stuff, but you have to understand how this identifies the system. Okay? Where it has the locations of its balance, of its powers, of its atmospheres of design into a graph screen and frame by frame by frame. Okay, so you start here, the body starts here, the body starts going here, the body starts going here, the body starts going here, here, and here, and here in order. Okay, every second, every minute, every hour of its time. Comes into space modulation, understands the navigating to the navigation system, and process that position locations of one unifications and start identifying, I've always been my oversoul. So I'm not the body. I'm just the mind itself that produces everything of its imagination, and how I see it through light is how I see it through dark. Light and dark. Solar and dimensional sail. Okay? Now coming to that lines, it gets much easier to realize that you've done everything through pi. Okay, so the body is doing this. This is what the body's doing, just going up through its design. Okay, as the center is you, which is modifying, trying to go here, here to its clocking system through space and time and travel. Okay, anything off in set position, if if you go here in position, this is your soul above the system, beyond the system. I am the system, right? That's done everything already. Okay, and it decides to go this way and do this. It's confusing the body of design. It confuses the construct. It confuses the infrastructure. It confuses everything of its system. You're going too fast in your minds of imagination, right? You got to slow down. So the body can interpret what's going on through each frame, each second, each minute, each hour of its system through its window. So in that position, you want your body, doesn't understand what's going on. So the body in that position goes here through pi. Oh no, you time jumped. And that's what your soul just finished doing. You time jump your body. Your body has no idea what's going on. It has to adjust its frames. If you go to time jump, you're in position, location of swirl line, direct lines of grounds, that portals, lines of communication convergence system, all through travel's direction of timeline is sequence like off balance. And the more you do that, the more the body gets confused. Doesn't know where to extend where it is. It can't balance out its 8 lines of polarity. It's set design. So that's what you need to focus on. Okay? Is its system lines of settings. Yeah, it's interesting too, because it's fascinating how we come in that positions. Because it's gone. It's back in its one-end design. It's not there anymore. Look. Okay? It's not there anymore. The drawing's gone. Because I know it is back at 1. It's at design. See? So I drew all that and it disappeared. Okay? It's in position. Now it's back in setting. See? I say disappeared, and then all of a sudden it reappears. So that alone is form of balance. That is form as lines of position of basics. So that's why I want you guys to identify going back to the basics. Helps you to understand how to coordinate. What is your purpose? Why are you here? Okay, is the how to operate your system, which you already know through design. Okay, that's what you have to modify through. But if you're traveling too fast in your mind, your body won't be able to catch up of what's going on as you're drawing schematics in a high force and Rexium timeline that processes everything of indication that confuses everything of the body of design. Because the body's moving forward and the mind's moving backwards. But the mind is doing this, which is modifying this, which is doing this, which is doing this, all in design. Clocking this, energize this, infinity 8, percentage of the mind over pi. Okay? And that's what you have to understand. Direct and redirect, okay, is 1. You go this way. Remember you guys in separation? You did that, right? Now we're in this. Now we do one indication, one arrow to another arrow, right? But then we process all 4 arrows all at once at all different angles. So you see 4 angles in setting, right? It's either north, east, west, and south, all right? So that's 3D, okay, equals NEWS. 3-dimensional northeast, that's all it is, right? Now, if you add equations to it, it's coming out of a 3-dimensional system. Okay? It's processing all different levels, how it sees the west, how it sees the east, the north, and the south pole. That's right. It's not just north and south. If it's just north and south, that's just half a pi. You live in a 4-line setting, a 4-window track core centers that communication setting. You live in summer, spring, winter, and fall. Is that coincidence that's in line's position of 4? No. Not at all. You're traveling through your seconds, minutes, and hours of 4 ones in sequence. 4 travels in 2 lines of settings. 4 lines of sequence location of 3 lines of communications. 4 direct lines of 4 lines of applications and polarities and direct lines of grounds in your solar system and track communication in your solar generation line connections. 5-line track lines convergence system involved through pi through 0, 0, 1. or 0001100, 0001100. Doesn't matter, because everything you're getting in position of, you're always yourself in design. So there's no structure, there's no confusion in your body of what it is and what it isn't. It's what you always are. It's always been the design through the oversoul. But the hardest part that you guys have to start identifying is how you see perspective, north, west, south, and east. Changes everything through its system, all through its dial, okay, and that position lines is clocking, or anything line communicates to its position, all levels of foundation, right? So it's all about understanding how you see things, not how everybody else sees things through 3D. You see things how you see things through 4, not how everybody else sees everything through 4D or 5D. Okay? You just have to get into your own identifications, and understanding that position is to slow down your minds so the body can process. So it can process what's going on. Okay? As it's moving frame by frame, frame by frame, frame by frame, frame by frame. Right? If you get your oversoul going 25,000 meters in set lines of seconds over pi, it's going, and it's all dizzy, doesn't know what's going on, it's all confused, the line connects in high position location, now it's separated, now it's fatigued and tired. That's what you did with your body. Are you consciously aware of that? No. As long as you see the body as an alignment to the soul, and as long as the soul sees your body as a vessel, you're good to go. Okay? That's what you have to start identifying now. Okay? How you put that in its alignment. Okay? Because wherever you go, everybody else goes all together. But you have to master yourself first. Understand the purpose. Understand you're already existing. Understand you're already in existence. Understand you're already living in that process. Living is how you see living. Now, you basically, in that position is where it comes to the life force, it travels. The levels, the intelligence, the vast, the volume, the velocity, into its existing. Okay? But it's all travel. Okay? Is this travel? If the body doesn't understand its position, only if it's only in its 3D? No, it stays in its 3D. That's live. That's live at a high frequency. But there's no difference there. It's just the perspective, how you see dimensions of space and time. Okay? 3D in a box of live. Okay? 7th D in a set position of box frame. Okay? Through live. Right? 3D, 7D. Because that's what I say what it is. It's knowing yourself on so many high levels is for you to identify these things that you've done everything already through pi. That formulates and simulates yourself in set position. Okay? So what you have to understand is understand the full alignment. And when you work with each other and you come in position of completing system with each other, you integrate each other in its computer operation and set design, coming back to your return. Back is how you see back. The balance, the awakenings, the consciousness of your knowledge. Back is not going back. You codify, it's not going back. Okay? But does that make any sense? Am I trying to figure out what I've just said? No, I'm back in a question now. So I got 2 questions along anomalies, not understanding 4-line rotations. Now I get a 4-line state location of questions I understand through traction, right? So what is back to me? Doesn't matter. As long as it benefits your body, you're totally fine. But if you don't codify everything, if you don't understand what codification is, you're lost in transition of a question that you don't understand through infinity 8. That's why you have to constantly bounce out your polarities every second, every minute, every hour of your day. You got to change the negative of pi and change the pi over negative. How you communicate, how you touch, how you come to your senses. Your grounds alone is the negative equals 0. Negative equals 0 is the grounds. Negative is the void. Negative is the opposite. Negative is the dark that you're standing on right now. Okay? Power is the center operation of you. Okay? And then you got what's above. It's what's below. It's attraction. Okay? But this is you in the center of operation. Okay? Staying in the center, expanding out through pi. It's attraction. Okay? But you've got to keep your grounds with your body as it's rotating through its negative cycles, so it understands the grounds of powers of atmospheres and its infinity rotation as the body becomes its own surfacing engine of its own highway in travel. Figure 8 rotation. Okay? And as it goes faster, it comes in a clock and a foundation, and then it comes into its yin and yang. Okay, how it sees the mass and volume through light, dark, and shadows and shades, all through infinity of spectrum of light. So, in that process is for you guys to balance these things, because now your dream interpretation is more identifying yourself, where you are in your dreaming, where you are in your dream through light and dark, as you're processing through that. Okay, how many times you blink your eyes? You should know that. Okay, how many times are you tapping your fingers? You should know that. You're picking that up by frame by frame by frame. That is what's going on through your upgrades, downloads, unblinking, and your upgrading systems. And your downgrading settings. So this helps you to modify to keep yourself balanced in your minds. Calm the set location of the soul. Get in position location of the mind. Is the quietness, is the emptiness. Okay? The quietness. The silence is golden. Seize the day. Carpe diem. Process what you're doing. Keep yourself body in alignment so it can identify the soul. So the soul can identify its body of a vessel. So it can travel through. The soul cannot travel through the body if the body doesn't understand the soul through telepathy. And that's what you guys have, is how to use that. Okay? It's the soul identifying the body is a transmitter. The body doesn't identify that because it's still in story. It's the oversoul that knows the body. The body doesn't know the soul. But then the body recognizes the soul, and the soul recognizes the body, so they're never been separable. So now they're in full alignment. And they realize they never created a dream. It never existed. Because I've always been existing of myself. And nothing of story, and nothing of frame, and nothing of projection comes to determinations of anything of the mind. What comes in the mind is what you bring in. And then you perceive consciousness through the operation. And then you start running your own programs, how you see fit, which is creating. But you've got to get balanced with your bodies. So your body can understand the alignment, and so the soul can identify its body as a vessel to travel through. So it then becomes a navigator to its navigation system. Then it comes into its course of recourse and set position locations to its console and know exactly how to use its flight manifest to its manifold. Okay? So it can understand why it's here and its purpose and set attractions. Okay? So this is going to help you identify a lot more levels, which you need to do now. Okay? The most powerful thing for you to identify is nothing. It's already done through its equation. It's rewinding you back to you. But your body's moving forward. But when I say rewind, that doesn't mean it's rewinding. It's rewinding back to itself, back to zero, back to out of an overdraft, back in setting positive or negative, not negative or positive. You don't live negative positive, you live positive or negative. Positive negative turns things on, turns on a light. Negative positive doesn't turn on a light. So that overrides the dark over light and understand the light over dark. So you understand the positive and the negative of everything. And how you process that has how you determine how you see that. If you want to see positive negative, that's fine. But positive is a negative. Negative is a positive. It doesn't matter. What matters is you. You're constructing that in your mind and imagination. So it doesn't matter what anybody says. Because all you're doing is different levels of perspective that you're seeing through dimensions of space and time. And how you perceive the consciousness is how you bring things in. It's there. And you look back. You look again. It's not there. That determines what you want to do next. You're in the mind control of that. But you also have to understand the process of its own control, of its own operation, of its own system, doing everything of its own travel, that recognizes everything to its own surfacing engine. Everything processes its own dimension of its own space. Everything communicates to its own system in all line in seconds, minutes, and hours. But you have to understand how to integrate that. And the only way to do that is to understand why your body's here in that position. Okay? So there you go. Hope you guys had fun. It's fantastic seeing everybody in that attractions. Keep it up, net lines of setting. See you soon.